Good morning, everyone. It's an amazing venue. And with this setting, I cannot resist, but I have to do the next 2 seconds in Cantonese. 山頂嘅朋友，你哋好。Only a singer can do this, right, in Hong Kong, but I'm not a singer, but I take the advantage of the venue today. The topic is to revolutionizing your workforce identity protections, especially in the AI area. Talked about Microsoft Azure. Many of you should have known. Previously, there was the Azure AD. It was mainly created for password protection. Speaking about passwords, in case you do not remember, password was first invented in 1961 at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. And we have been using passwords to protect our identity for over half of the centuries. And until the last 2 decades, the attack, phishing attack, password attack are becoming very common. MFA were widely adopted over the last decades. But then, at one point, MFA was efficient enough to block over 99% of the attack. There comes SIM swapping, adversary in the middle attack, and token threat. So now, the effectiveness of MFA has started to diminish. But then we have to move one step ahead. The last 2 years I've been with Microsoft. I've been with Microsoft for nearly 5 years now. And I've witnessed the revolutions of one identity protection to the next. In the last year or two, we have walked away from passwords to passwordless. And today, if I log into my application, my account, I use what's called passkey. And why passkey is so effective is that there's a private key that's associated with my device through the Microsoft Authenticator, and only if my authenticator with the private key is registered with the application that I access to, then I'm allowed access. Token threat, if your token is being stolen and then being used by a hacker from somewhere else, and it does not have my private key, so those assets will be blocked. So if you're managing your identity real estate, in the cloud, on premises, different set of applications, and you have different identity governance, it's very hard to do if you have a set of applications supports MFA, a set of applications only do password, and a set of applications that are in the cloud or on premises. And you see a little logo for Copilot, and that's from Microsoft AI. The fundamental of Copilot, the identity relation, is that it's tightly related to associated with the user identity. What the user can access, the Copilot AI can access, and vice versa. So it's the consistency that we have built into Copilot. So all this number, what it tells us, the GDP per capita was number 4 and number 3 and 4. Which 2 countries? Japan and Germany. Each of them are roughly around 4 trillion GDP per capita. So the global cybercrime costs predicted in 2024 are the GDP of the 2 countries, Japan and Germany, combined. It's huge. And you can see hundreds of billions of passwords, and password attack that's been detected by Microsoft, that is before the AI era. With this Microsoft Digital Defense Report that came out in 2024, the number has now increased to 7,000 per second. And you times 60 seconds per minute, 60 minutes per hour, 24 hours a day. You do the math, right? And with this report we just came out, it also tells you the top 10 targeted setters worldwide. And on the other side, the phishing attack, the middle of it, you can see the QR code, which stands for Quick Response Code. Since the COVID, we use QR code on a day-to-day basis regularly, but then the attack also come from the QR code very regularly. Is on the rise. So you know what QR code can do, right? You take away your identity, download malware to your devices, so you can do all kinds of things. So that is on the rise. Again, this Microsoft Digital Defense Report, if you visit the Microsoft booth near the entrance, leave your business cards there. We'll be in contact with you. I'll be happy and make sure that you get a copy of this over 110 pages of report. Very comprehensive, lots of good recommendations and insights. And this report is the first report that we have published that talk about the AI impact. So what a hacker has to do in an attack on a manual base is very labor intensive. With the power of AI, they also leverage the AI to do the attack in parallel in a machine speed instead of a manual process. So the cost of attack is going down as AI is getting more widely adopted, not only from our business perspective, but also from the bad guys. So again, this report is very comprehensive, and it all comes down to the most fundamental part of the defense, the pyramid. The bottom layer, identity. The second layer, endpoint. And then the third layer, data, right? So if you're safeguarding your entry point to your house, your data, your jewelries, your valuables are much safer if you have a great foundation on your identity protections. So that is the importance of making sure that the next year or two, your security projects has the identity focus. So Entra suite come with 5 components of the Entra family. In the past, people only remember Entra ID, Plan 1, Plan 2, for those of you are familiar with the Microsoft licensing, but then now we have expanded into 9 product categories in the Entra families. For human identity, for workload identities, that's non-human. For external identity, that's business to business, business to consumer, the cloud identity, and the on-premise identity. But the good thing is, it's all associated with one user ID. So, with the revolutions of our Microsoft Entra solutions, this has now expanded into 9 product categories, as well as these 5 components as part of the entire suite. Yes, there's a little bit of sales pitch here, but it is a suite that we bundle together. So with the AI, the deepfake attack start to happen. So now we have announced what's called Wi-Fi ID, which will do a digital identity verification and a real-time face check, which I have a little demo that I can show you in the coming minute. Now, for those of you who are familiar with conditional access policy within Entra, you know we can detect the user risk at the time of sign-in, the location where the sign is coming from, what the country is coming from. If you're in Hong Kong at 1 minute and then 2 hours later you're signing in from Middle East, which is an impossible travel. Katie has mentioned about it earlier. Endpoint, if you're not in a compliance device, your access should be blocked or elevated with the access process. With the conditional access, the investment that you have already built into your conditional access, we have now expanded into the network continuous evaluation and making sure that the network coming in is also in compliance. So as of today, you can see the conditional access policy that you can configure into your protection has now expanded. Not only from user risk, sign risk, your locations, your application risk, but now the compliance network. So if any part of the access is coming through from a non-compliance network, which is violating your conditional access policy, the access should be blocked. So Entra is really meant to help organizations to reduce your security on-premises footprints and moving further into cloud, and because this is where the AI capabilities is most powerful. The announcement of Wi-Fi ID allows you to download a digital ID into your phone, and that is the Microsoft Authenticator, and it supports real-time face check. When it does real-time face check, it's not taking a selfie of your photo and upload it to somewhere in the cloud. No, no. It is to sign up initially and make sure that your selfie, the image stay on your device, but then the next time you do a self-face check, it calculates the percentage of the matching, right? So if I today sign up my face check, I wear a suit, I do not wear hats, I do not wear sunglasses, but the next day I decide to wear hats and sunglasses, it's not going to be 100% accurate. So the policy allows you to define that if there's a certain percentage of matching, then the identity face check can pass. Let's say 90% match, 95% match. So it's a process of getting to a QR code, and then it pumps you for the identity. And then with the identity, it pumps you for a face check if needed, right? So not every time it's going to require you for an identity verification with a real-life face check. But in this example, you're going to see, if someone asking your help desk to support and log into their device, and let's say to reset the password, if this request is coming out from a hacker, the risk is very high, right? Because once the password is being reset, the hacker has the password and the credential. So with this, we go in, the help desk will make sure that you are who you are, you work for this organization. So I'm going to prompt you for a Wi-Fi ID. And then I pop up my phone, get to my Wi-Fi ID, the digital card, and then I scan the QR code. And because of the requirement from the verification, it's going to ask me for a real-time face check. So this is a good tool to go against those deepfake attacks. So now you do the real-life face check, you move around your heads here, there, and then it does the matching. Again, the privacy, the image stays in your own device. So when the passing rate goes beyond, let's say, 92%, 95%, then you're good. And the support team is going to tell you support is on the way. And that is how we safeguarding, make sure that you're not a fake person from a hacking group or from a dangerous location, right? So the other area I want to talk about is the secure web gateway. We normally block certain websites, but then there are departments that has the legitimate business reasons to access certain websites. So this, if I want my team to have a just-in-time access, I can have a just-in-time access policy enforced, and then allowing the team to come in and say, hey, normally I do not allow my employee to access Dropbox, but I do have a business reason to work with my partners, right? So here I come in and I ask for the access package for like 2 hours with a business justification. And then once this is request, you can have the automated approval or wait for someone to approve it manually. And again, with the justification and then the time windows, now you're good for the next 2 hours to access Dropbox, while you normally do not allow your employee to access. So if you go back to your Dropbox page, you refresh it, now you can work with your partner just for the next 2 hours, and all your assets are being checked. So that is another new announcement from our July 2024 for the secure web gateway. The next capability that is part of the suite is the private access. That is for the purpose of the replacement of the traditional VPN. We all know once you log into VPN, you access to many resources that your organization has in your environment, right? So the risk is that if I only mean to access one or two specific applications, then I have more access than what I need, and that's a risk. And also, if the access to certain application is taking up a lot of more bandwidth than some others, then the resources bandwidth is being taken up and it slows down other applications. And also the security of one-way communication. So this is another announcement that has been made from the Entra suite supporting your on-premises applications. And identity protections, from a user point of view, we all have joined a new company. We all do the onboarding. We all been assigned to certain teams group or certain collaboration teams, and your identity is being automatically assigned or manually assigned. But all these capabilities are now part of the identity protection and governance life cycle. From employee onboarding to employee, maybe one day changed one job to another within the organization, from marketing to finance, for example. So the access from the marketing team need to be terminated, let's say 7 days after the internal transfer happens, right? And then one day the employee has worked in this organization for like 5-6 years and decides to move on. You want to make sure all the access that the employee has granted over the last 6 years are fully terminated at the time the employee departs. So this is the identity governance control that you can place into your day-to-day operations. So here's another demo. It is someone to request an access to the network share in your on-premises file share. And because of the access, it's not from your corporate network, it's coming through from a remote network. So the security control steps up. So what you're going to see is that request is coming in, provide justification, and again, the time window if needed, and the approval happens so that the employee go in and then launch the browser and get to the network share, accessing to the on-premises resources, and at the time of the access, the MFA plugs in, right? So knowing that you are not within the corporate network, you're somewhere in a Starbucks coffee store, right? So this granularity is now capable with Entra family. Now, one more thing. When the approver receives a request from someone who is accessing to those packages, if the approver always blindly approve, there's also a risk. But what if there will be intelligence and telling you that the access is actually coming out from somewhere with a distance, even within an organization? So if I normally work for, let's say, marketing department, or let's say I work for legal team, right? But then all of a sudden I receive a access request that's coming out from, I don't know, the sales team maybe. And that is not very normal in the sense why a salesperson wants to access a legal document, right? So there will be a recommendation to the approver whether to approve this access or to deny this access. So that is the intelligence from how this machine learning capabilities is able to feedback to the approver and making sure that the approval decision is done right. And the approver has to think twice every time before an access is being granted. So in a nutshell, the 5 components that I've just mentioned about, Verify ID, which support real-time face check, identity governance, the entire life cycle of an employee, how you can automatically governance those assets and terminate or grant access automatically and make sure that your manual process is being minimized. And with the announcement of the internet access and private access, Entra is now expanding into the SASE market, starting with secure web gateway and the ZTNA, which is replacing the traditional VPN. And the speed is going to be much faster than your traditional VPN. And we have a customer who recently on board with the solution purely because of the performance. And identity protection, and many of you are more familiar with this identity protection component as part of your conditional access policy already. So we have this entire Entra suite announced and building on top of the investment that you already have made into your conditional access under Entra ID. So this is the entire suite components. And again, please visit the Microsoft booth, and we'll be in contact and talk to your Microsoft friends, and then we'll definitely get to more one-to-one sessions and see how we can help as well. And I do want to thank you for the opportunities for the time here, and great speaking with you all. Thank you.